And welcome to the Draft Indie Podcast. Live again, coming to you late in the second day of the NFL Draft. Tonight I am joined with Alex isn't here, I'm sorry. Garrett, Jay, Brian, and Jeremy. How are you guys doing tonight?
Really good. Just chilling with my new hooker.
Nice. All right, so let's get started. Second round, pick 46. Cornerback out of Florida, Quincy Wilson. I got his measurables. Since Malik didn't have measurables, I'll read measurables. 6'1", 211, 32 and a quarter inch arms. Ran a 4.54 40, a 32 inch vert, a 118 inch broad, with a 6.86 3-cone and a 4.02 second 20-yard shuttle. Okay.
Just a quick, hold on, just before you say that, quick note. You said you don't have Malik's measurables. He measured at like 6'1" at the combine, but in his press conference he said he's 6'3", so he's 6'3" now.
Nice. He grew 2 inches.
So,
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so with Quincy Wilson, one of my favorites, I believe I had him as my CB4. I think Jeremy had him as his CB3. NFL draft scout Matt Miller had him as his CB1 the entire time. Jeremy, I'm going to start with you. What did you see in Quincy Wilson, and how does he fit in the Indianapolis Colts defense?
He's a nice physical cornerback, which is a nice change from a lot of the prospects in this class. There's a lot of guys that don't like to get their hands dirty in the run game, but he's more than willing to. He looks really good in a press man system, which is maybe why he dropped as far as he did, because a lot of teams don't like him as an off man as much. Gets nice and physical with the receivers at the line of scrimmage. Doesn't have the best deep speed. I guess it helps when you have a hooker over the top, I guess, now. But overall, very efficient. He was third in passer rating this year, just 29.9 passer rating against. Fifth in completion percentage, just 16 completions on 49 targets. And 3 interceptions on those as well.
Yeah, the passer rating number, the 29.2 passer rating, when thrown into his coverage, that's pretty good. I'm very happy with this pick. I honestly didn't think that he was going to be here again, just kind of like yesterday with Malik Hooker. I think we can positively say we knew Chris Ballard was a secondary guy when he was hired. Comes in first draft. He doesn't really address it outside of signing Butler and free agency. First draft, he comes in and gets 2, I'd say above average players to start and kind of reform the secondary. He covers like a blanket. I know that's such a cliche kind of term, but I turned on a couple of games of him while watching the draft, as it was unfolding, and it is just crazy how he just sticks to these receivers. And we've had to deal with Greg Toller and Rashawn Melvin and a whole bunch of made-up names that create a player in Madden type guys. So I'm through the roof on this pick. I think we all knew we needed to get a cornerback. We needed a cornerback high, and he's a good one. I'll throw it out to you guys. Does anyone have anything else they want to talk about with Quincy?
Quincy wasn't a guy that I was really thinking of or hoping that we would draft, but now that I remember, because I watched him really early in the process, but I remember everything that you just said. Yeah, he is a really good press man, physical boundary cornerback, really kind of pure in that sense, and he's from Florida, and all their DBs, whether they're good prospects or not, they tend to play really physically, and I love that attitude. And you definitely see that with him. In terms of his testing, he has those great physical traits that we've mentioned. He's got the range, the arm length, the weights, and his weight-adjusted agility is pretty outstanding, even if his deep speed is not super inspiring. He's such a good press man. He's so good off the line that he hopefully won't need that recovery speed. That's kind of what you hope for with guys like him. And I really love going back-to-back DBs, round 1 and 2. It just because it makes it more interesting to me. Because if you add one player to a secondary, it's hard for me to get excited about that. But adding two makes it like some more significant addition to the unit, and I can look forward to having a much better secondary in the future now.
Yeah, Ballard has made significant moves on reforming this defense. It's incredible, to be honest. I mean, he tripled up on outside linebacker. He doubled up on inside linebacker. He doubled up on defensive lineman. Now he's doubled up in the secondary. He even went more than that in the defensive line. Al Woods and John Hankins
and Hunt.
And Hunt, yeah. So I mean, it's he is really looking to reform this defense, and it definitely needed it. For those who are listening live, if you have questions, you can put them in the live chat on YouTube, and we might get to them towards the end. Before we move on to our third round pick of Tarell Basham, real quick, any last parting thoughts on Quincy?
Yeah, I got some thoughts. I mean, I had him as my CB7, which I think seems a little bit low. I had him just below Humphrey because I thought Humphrey was a little more physical, and they were kind of both that same kind of boundary corner. I mean, I know, like, Jeremy, I know you really talked about him a lot, like a CB3. I mean, so you were obviously higher on him. I think Matt Miller just keeping it at 1 was just kind of like ignorant and standing for someone that, I don't know, I just felt that was ignorant of him. But I don't not like the pick. I think he's going to be a good player. Just, I don't know. There wasn't enough for him on film that got me excited. I like some of his measurables, but I think maybe that just might be me watching him and, quarterbacks really throwing to him. And then I kind of learn, okay, well, that's a good thing that he's not being targeted that much. So, I mean, that's something good to take away. Obviously, he does win within 5-10 yards of the line of scrimmage. He's winning pretty much every battle. I wasn't a big fan of him against the run, especially with his size. I know specifically the Alabama game, and obviously going against Jalen Hurts and Bo Scarborough, you're not going to you're not going to rack up tackles because those guys are just completely different animals. But I felt for being, 210 pounds as a corner, I thought he should have been better in the run game because there wasn't really any stout games that he had where, he was breaking up screen passes or tackling guys behind the line of scrimmage like Marlon Humphrey does.
And again, you mentioned that targets. Again, 2016 targeted 46 times, only gave up 16 catches, 3 interceptions. I don't have the pass breakup numbers in front of me. Only gave up 1 TD. So that's impressive.
I really like Wilson. I don't really like him. I like him, and I, as a fan, can easily talk myself into really liking him. He's a good fit for what they want. I not predicted, but I guessed a couple months ago that he'd be a good fit kind of guy that they would like. And he's a good fit for the defense. He's a big physical guy. He's got good ball skills with the ball in the air. And let's talk about the fact that he's the best looking player on the Colts right now.
He is cute. I'll give you that.
You know what? I'll take it. I think it's fair. All right, moving on. Again, ask questions on YouTube chat. We are live. This is the Draft Indie Podcast. Let's move on to the third pick. Pick number, what was he? Number 80. Guys, this hurt my soul. Not the pick. Let's talk about the situation. Since 2016, I have yearned for a player. I have longed for a player. His name was Tim Williams from Alabama. He went pick 78, and we picked 80. And it cut me deep. It hurts. It really hurts. I didn't honestly think he was going to drop that far, but he did. And then to see him go 2 picks before we get a chance at him, really just, it cuts my soul deep. Now, no more Tim Williams talk. The dream is dead. We'll move on. Pick number 80. Tarell Basham, outside linebacker from Ohio. Quick.
Oh, Ohio State?
No, Ohio.
No.
There's just in Ohio?
Yes.
The green ones.
Ohio University.
Yes.
It's
All right.
Levon Brazil.
Oh,
yes.
Actually,
yes. Such
Grant, I'll go
such
ahead because
pedigree.
I kind of got a lot of takes on him, and I talked to someone about him.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with his measurables first. So wait a minute.
Oh, okay. I got those up too, but
6'4", 270, 34 and a quarter inch arms. Ran a 4.7 flat, 31-inch vert, 119-inch broad, 7.273 cone, 4.35 20-yard shuttle. Go ahead,
That's
Brian.
Also, just another thing that's measurable. He's got 10-inch quarter hands, which is really good. And then another thing, he only has 15 bench press reps, which is not good at all. In fact, it was in the third percentile, but we'll get to that later. So right after we got the pick, I DM'd Jeff Brisden, who he's an Ohio graduate, so like he follows their football really close. He said it was the biggest recruit they've had in a while. He was like instant impact at the end, and then his sophomore year, because I think he's a junior, maybe he's a senior, but in those middle years, they moved him inside, and then he didn't play as well. He got back outside and apparently he cut weight and added muscle. This year's his senior year. He was MAC Defensive Player of the Year. It says he's like a natural 3-4 outside linebacker. And against MAC competition, he had some good games. Arguably his best game was against Tennessee. He's solid versus run, and he played a lot against run play option. He was usually in charge of taking on that responsibility of going to the running back or quarterback, and he often, got some tackles for loss from that. I mentioned his hands, so he has like really strong hands, and he has a really high motor, and he kind of recovers. Like sometimes, like once he slipped, like trying to bend the edge, but like he got back up and sacked the quarterback, so he can kind of recover, and he has good body control. But like the biggest thing against him is like this guy really isn't strong at all. Like I mentioned, only 15 bench press reps, but like I've watched 3 games of him and I haven't seen him beat a tackle once with strength. And he's got limited change of direction. So I thought I would be kind of happy about this pick, but like I just don't know like what he's gonna do. And like this just kind of just seems like another guy that's not gonna get a second contract with the Colts. There's a lot off of it. He kind of reminds me a little bit of like Tyrone Holmes. Came out of, I think, Montana last year, and I think he's on the Browns. Like an all right, small school. Obviously, the best player on a small school team as a pass rusher and gets some hype, but like just for being 6'4", 270 with big hands and long arms, he's really not strong, and it really is kind of just disappointing because he doesn't really have a specific way to win.
I did not spend a whole lot of time watching him pre-draft. I tried to watch a couple cut-ups of him beforehand. His decision-making is where he can win a lot. He's very good at. He's smart. You see a lot of plays out of him where he's got the in that Tennessee game he's got the Josh Dobbs, who's pretty mobile. And there's a lot of times where they'll run the option, and he's actually making the correct play on the option. One of the things that I saw from him is that he's able to win on some sort of like an inside move, maybe a kind of a swim. He's pretty good in stunts. The 4.7, just doesn't sound great, but it is. He does seem to play pretty quick out there.
No, yeah, that's a 77th percentile for edge play or for defensive ends.
So, Jeremy, I know you are a big fan of Tarell Basham. What have you seen?
I really like his hand usage. He doesn't have the best power, like you said, but he is able to use his hands really well on a bull rush and almost get away with the lack of strength still because he can disengage. A couple times I saw him use a nice inside spin move. It would be a wise investment for him to spend the summer with Mr. Robert Mathis, I think, because he doesn't have a ton of counters. And he's a little stiff on the outside. He's not a guy that's going to bend the outside edge and beat the tackle. I don't think he's more of an inside move guy. But I do really like the way he holds the edge against the run game, which we do have a couple other guys who can do that right now, but it enables him to stay on the field for 3 downs. And his size is enough that I think you could even kick him inside on 3rd down. And I think he can rush from the inside pretty well.
Jeremy, you said he's got that inside move, and yeah, if he learns, I think I only saw like 1 or 2 plays with that spin move, but they were both effective. And you said like if he works on that, and like, so obviously if he can win on the like using that inside move and getting within the inside shoulder of a tackle, like learning how to do a spin move can be awesome, especially with his arms and his hands and being able to create separation. So that's big for him. And yeah, and the lack of pass rush moves, never really bent the edge. I don't remember seeing a lot of bull rushes, but I never saw him use a rip move either. So if he can really learn how to use a spin move, that would be huge for him.
All right.
And he is. Sorry, I just want to say he is a little wild. 8 missed tackles on 40 attempts this year, which is pretty high. But you'll see that sometimes with a guy that has a motor that just runs nonstop. They're a little wild. So he needs to be kind of trained up a little bit, but it's something to work with versus.
And that's also a result of him being that main person that and those RPOs where he pretty much was the guy on that Ohio defense. He was asked to do the most out of anyone.
So I haven't actually watched Basham at all, but I feel comfortable saying that it's the right pick, or at least the right position at the right pick. It's the right spot to be taking an edge player right there. You know, we probably would have preferred Derek Rivers, but I haven't watched him yet. But if you look at his measurables, he's almost across the board identical to Jabal Sheard, actually.
Yep.
They're both 6'3", or well, 163, 164, 264 pounds, 269 pounds, long arms, almost the exact same 40, and almost the exact same broad jump, almost the exact same vertical jump, and he looks cool in the helmet. His helmet looks cool.
One of his comparables.
Aesthetics matter.
One of his comparables on Mock Draftable was Jared Allen, and again, that's not play style. That's just athletic profiles. What I've kind of seen from him, maybe. All right, so let's move on. Again, if you are listening to this live podcast from the Draft Indy podcast, feel free to ask some questions on the YouTube channel. Feel free to at Draft Indy or at any one of us with your question. We'll try and get to it towards the end. So, who helped themselves the most today? Day 2. Obviously, the Seahawks had a ton of picks, but and so I honestly they drafted some pretty good players. But who do you guys think helped themselves the most today?
Should we keep it close to home and start talking about the Texans? Because that's probably the most relevant.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
I mean, so obviously they upgraded their quarterback situation finally after a long series of concerted efforts to bring in a viable quarterback. They probably made their best move to that end yesterday. I really do like Watson, even though he was only my QB3. I think he could be really good with B.O.B. And then today, they get someone whom a lot of people consider to be the second best linebacker in the draft, Cunningham from Vanderbilt. I personally wasn't as high on him, but what do I know? And then Deontay Foreman, who I did really like, and I think could be an upgrade over Lamar Miller and a great compliment to Deshaun Watson on the ground. So, yeah, they suddenly look much more intimidating.
Yeah, the offense is what was holding them back. So, and honestly, it's kind of funny. Brian Cushing announced Zach Cunningham because it's kind of like being announced by someone who's taking your job. So, or will be in the near future.
That's funny. I know that.
Jaguars, Cam Robinson, and who's that other one they took? I had it all in front of me. But anyways, Cam Robinson, they needed offensive line help, and they definitely got it with Cam Robinson. He was, I didn't feel like he should have fallen. I don't think a lot of those guys should have fallen out of the first round just because how badly people need offensive lineman, but I get it. I'm pulling up Jacksonville right here. Yes, Dwayne Smoot. So Dwayne Smoot was their other pick. So last year they loaded up on defensive talent. They added Kalai Campbell in the free agency this year, but Yannick Ngakoue, or I can't remember how to pronounce his name. Ngakwe, whatever.
There's a lot of dudes on that front. On that front four of Jacksonville, there's like 8 guys they have signed. There's a lot going on there. They're gonna have to weave through because they invested a ton on that front four.
Yeah, but Fowler was a bust. Tyrone Holmes, who they drafted last year, now plays on the Browns. Yannick was their best player, or was their best defensive lineman. So Dwayne Smoot, I was a big fan of him in the summer. He kind of died down during the draft process, but still a very solid player. I know Jeremy was pretty high on him. Jeremy, where'd you have him on your big board?
68, and Basham was 70, and to me, they're very similar players.
Interesting. I can see that.
And Smoot has some better pass rush moves. Basham's better against the run, but overall, similar body types, similar ways they win overall. So I had Smoot 2 spots higher, but I prefer Basham in terms of I think he plays 3 downs.
Interesting. Going on to our other opponent in the AFC South today, the Titans picked up Taywan Taylor, Western Kentucky, and Jonas Smith from Florida International, meaning they have drafted 4 pass catchers with their 4 picks. What do you guys think? Interesting, right?
I think Adoree Jackson's a cornerback.
Oh, I don't know.
Hot take.
I was hoping that they would try to use him as Tyreek Hill or Taylor, at least like Taylor Gabriel or someone, because I really thought that was his best fit in the NFL, that he really is special with the ball in his hands. But the fact that they went and got all these other pass catchers really tells me that they aren't planning on using him like that, especially Taywan Taylor, who would do basically what I hoped Adoree would do. So, yeah, I really can't get behind that draft. I mean, Davis is a good player. Dory could be a good cornerback, probably not a great one, and he'd still get beat a lot. And then these other guys, I just don't think that's how you build a team. All these skill positions.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, in the division, again, time will tell how the games are played. I'm trying to think. Who else? Let's see. I really like what Baltimore's done.
Baltimore. I mean,
Baltimore drafted straight up using my exact, hey, guys, here's my 10 favorite players today. They grabbed Tyus Bowser, Tim Williams, and Chris Wormley. And that's just going to be a terror of a front seven.
My favorite so far has been the Saints. Lattimore Ramczyk in round 1, I think, is just awesome. And then they got Marcus Williams, who's kind of he's like the second free safety compared to center fielder compared to Hooker. And so they kind of got a nice secondary going because they got Delvin Breaux and Lattimore on the outside, and then they got a trio safeties with Von Bell, Marcus Williams, and Kenny Vaccaro. So when they go to nickel and dime packages, they're gonna have some really interesting stuff. And I think Alvin Kamara at the top of round 3 is a good value pick, and Sean Payton will absolutely get him touches, and Kamara's gonna eat behind that line.
Yeah, I think.
I also like the. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was just going to say, I really liked what the Chargers did today. They added Forrest Lamp and Dan Feeney, who were arguably the 2 best interior linemen. So I'm guessing they'll turn one into a center and leave the other at guard, and I think that's a really nice haul for your 2nd and 3rd round picks.
And they desperately needed that on the O-line, too.
They really did.
All offensive linemen are garbage.
7-on-7.
I kind of like what the Packers did. I'm not a huge fan of Kevin King's tape. Measurables are off the chart. But Josh Jones, Montravius Adams, definitely some big ads there for them. I think Josh
literally.
Jones, yeah. Well, yes, because Montravius Adams is 6'4", 305. So he'll be their. You would hope is their next BJ Raji. Trying to think of anybody else that I can really think off the top of my head that really helped themselves. Man, as much as I hate to say it, the Patriots, man, they just they trade their first round pick, they trade their second round pick, they trade back, then they pick up Derek Rivers, the last forced player on the board, who I would have preferred to Basham, but it's too late to talk about that now. And then they pick up Antonio Garcia, who is definitely developmental prospect, but when you've got Dante Scarnecchia there, and then with how mean Antonio Garcia is and nasty, just very second to Bowles in the nasty rating. It is, they do so much with so little, it seems like, when it comes to draft capital, and I just hate them for it. I really
didn't the Cowboys got Awuzie and Jordan Lewis?
Yes.
Those are two good nickel corners moving forward. And especially since where they picked, I think that's because they lost 4 or 5 guys in the secondary this offseason. So then getting those two guys is pretty good for the value they got for them.
Yeah. Worst draft. I think this is the easiest one of all time. Los Angeles Rams. What in the hell are they doing?
Oof.
Really, awful. Their first pick is Gerald Everett from Southern Alabama at pick 44. Yeah, he's athletic, but man, what? You could have picked Bucky Hodges. Bucky Hodges is a proven, big game tight end, essentially, and then you get Gerald Everett. Then they pick Cooper Kupp, which I think Jay's a big fan of Cooper Kupp, but still, I don't know what the Rams do. I'm done questioning them. They're
on top of not having a top 5 pick because they traded it to get Jared Goff, who people are already thinking okay, but how are they going to replace that guy?
Right. 49ers had been killing it until they picked C.J. Beathard.
No idea who that was.
Yeah, well, let's just say he's one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever watched, and he's one of the reasons. Our boy from Iowa, what's his name? He's on our practice squad. Smith, what's his name?
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. He had to play hero ball last year because
when they were showing his highlight tape, it was 3 plays. I was like, oh, that must be it.
Right. Other than that, I'm not going to keep searching through these things to go for the draft tracker. But anyways, let's talk about tomorrow, and that's what a lot of our questions are for. So let's go to a question real quick, because this is a big topic among this group. Who are the favorite RB prospects for tomorrow? That question comes from 3 people on the live chat. So we've got 4 picks in the fourth, or 3 picks in the 4th round, 1 pick in the 5th round. Who's the favorite RB left on the board?
For me, it's Jeremy McNichols.
Why?
He's very athletic. Most of the best athlete. He might be the best athlete left on the board at running back.
Wrong.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Jay. Say it.
Okay, the best athlete. It's actually there's one that's not getting drafted that's above them, but Aaron Jones, running back 3 as far as SPARQ score goes, 88th percentile.
Okay, yeah, best overall SPARQ athlete maybe, but if we're just looking at weight adjusted 40, which is basically how I define athleticism, and I think McNichols had a good 3 cone as well. Plus, he's a very productive college player at Boise State, very productive pass catcher. Kind of raw, but still very young, and I compared him to who's that Seahawks running back from Notre Dame?
Procyse.
Procyse, yeah, he's kind of like a similar prospect, and Procyse has been injured and hasn't done anything yet, so I don't know how that prototype works out. But he still needs to learn some nuances of actually running the ball, but the ability is all there, I think. So if we're getting a day 3 running back, he's my guy right now.
Yeah, McNichols. Go ahead, Garrett.
I like Aaron Jones too. I'm not opposed to Aaron Jones.
McNichols is good. You guys talk about McNichols, but he's good too.
Yeah, well, McNichols. Kyle and I have talked about this. Kind of seems like a Colts style running back, especially if he can. He's athletic and he can do a lot more than just run. And I think Pirine is still maybe available. Maybe at that last 4th round pick or 5th round, because these running backs have kind of gone in a weird order. And then two maybe non-traditional fits for the Colts, but still have great film and are just really, really good running backs are Marlon Mack and Jamal Williams.
My favorite pick left, and you guys know who it is. Samaje Perine. He's the ultimate pick for this style of offense. And I know you guys hate it. But I love it. If he's the pick, I'm ecstatic. Now, he's might be slow, but it's okay.
Might be.
He is slow.
No, it isn't.
I got to pull up that tweet where Garrett said that like running is in fact the most important part of being a running back, so you should be fast.
Yeah,
it's kind of important.
It's a very bold take from me.
Very bold take. Now,
running back should have the ability to run fast.
Okay. Now, that's from my own evaluation. I had Samaje Perine pretty high. Now let's listen, or let's go with this, who I know everyone in this room trusts, Matt Waldman. Samaje Perine is Matt Waldman's number 5 running back.
Ooh.
Overall?
Overall.
Or available?
No, overall.
Did not know that.
He is, I'm telling you guys.
Are you sure it's not number 5 fullback?
Oh.
I was thinking number 5 available right now.
No. Number 5 overall in this entire process, and it's because he's such a strong inside runner, and he can catch. I mean, what you have to do if you really want a lot of good insights on this, you got to go watch the Matt Waldman film room on Samaje Perine, which was excellent. But you go and look, in his freshman year when he was probably 215, he looked completely different, and he's about 235, 240, just because of the way that they needed to use him as a counterbalance with Joe Mixon. You get him back 215, 220. He's so different. So
yeah, I have seen pictures of him, and he looked like he lost a good 10, 15 pounds. He looked a lot skinnier. Yeah,
I'm a big fan of Samaje Perine. He's my favorite left. He's not sparked up, or he's not a 97th percentile spark guy, but he's probably a 30 percentile spark guy. But I'm a huge fan. I think that he fits our style of running back to the T, and if he's a pick, I'm happy for it. But if Jeremy McNichols is a pick, I'm happy for it. If it's Aaron Jones, I'm happy for it. If it's anyone who has fresh legs that is gonna do a little bit better than the old guy, I'm cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
while you're talking about Matt Waldman's favorite sleeper running back, Aaron Jones.
Hey, he is. No, I'm totally with it. Like I said, there's a lot of good running backs left. Jamal Williams is left. Marlon Mack is still on the board.
I know Williams is Jeremy's favorite, if you wanted to mention him.
For the Colts, actually, he's not my favorite. He's my highest ranked running back that I have available, but I would love if they would add a little more speed, based on what I'm looking at right now. As much as I like Perine as well, he's the top 100 prospect to me. But if I'm the Colts, I'm not using the next pick on a running back. I'm probably still looking at a linebacker because they desperately need someone who can compete as a starter. And I would just let the chips fall, and I'd take an Aaron Jones. I would take McNichols. Even as far as like Brian Hill from Wyoming. I think these guys are all capable of coming in. They can play all 3 downs. They really need someone who can help out on 3rd down, because Gore isn't even capable of playing those anymore. So that's why I would stay away from a Perine a little more. I know that might get me kicked off the podcast, but
we don't need help on 3rd down. That's what we got Josh Ferguson for.
Yeah, or we could add talent. And I mean, we've said for a long time, Jeremy McNichols is like the perfect Colts running back, and I think he's kind of a younger Frank Gore. So I would like that pairing.
All right, moving on. Last chance to get your questions in. If you are listening to this live version of the Draft Any podcast, who's your guys' favorite prospect left on the board who could be there about 15 picks into the 4th round. Mine, Blair Brown. Another Ohio, not Ohio U, or not Ohio State, but yes, Ohio U, the green ones, and not Miami, Ohio, just plain old Ohio. Blair Brown. He is an undersized linebacker, and while watching Tarell Basham tape to prepare for this quick thing, every time you turn it on, you just see this little dude fly around just about everywhere, and he's crazy. I am looking for him in this 4th round. He's probably the best linebacker left on the board, in my opinion. James, who's your favorite prospect left besides Aaron Jones?
Yeah, a favorite player in the draft is probably Jones. So, relative to where he's going. But if I had to pick one, it'd either be Tankersley or Carl. Oh, is he gone?
Tankersley got picked.
Yeah. Sorry. Or Carl Lawson. Is he still there?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going Carl Lawson then. If he's still there in the 4th round, I'm cool with going double edge.
Surprisingly, still there. Garrett, what
he didn't have a great combine. He didn't run super fast, but
got a lot of medical issues as well.
Yeah, that's true. In Spark score, he ended up being like 65th percentile, so that's pretty solid. It's basically the same as Basham.
Garrett, who do you got?
I really like Lawson as well, although if he's here in round 4, that speaks to much bigger issues that we cannot see. Probably were revealed at the combine, like you guys said. I'll tell you what, this may be a little rich for some people, but if they wanted to take a 3rd defensive back and just go all in on this young secondary, Corn Elder and Xavier Woods are still there. And both of those guys can make some really fun plays, especially in the shorter game.
Yes, in that slot game.
Yes, exactly. Woods is listed as a safety. Could be a safety in the NFL. Could also be a slot corner, I think.
He's like Buda Baker light.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
I'm a big fan of Xavier. I think everybody in here knows that.
I haven't watched him, but I thought that he was more of a deep safety, but that's really good to hear and good to know.
Yeah, and Corn Elder as well. I'm a big fan of him as well. Plus his name's Corn. I mean,
Grant, I'm going to take your guy. Josh Reynolds is still available in day 3. That's awesome value for him.
I would agree.
Yeah. Other available guys that are like right now, Jaleel Johnson's still on the board. He's good. Nico Siragusa, the guard from San Diego State. I think the Colts take a guard or a tackle at some point. Marlon Mack, my guy. And then Ryan Switzer, just because I have a strange obsession with short white slot receivers. And I think that's pretty much it. But and Jordan Leggett, the tight end from Clemson, I really like him. I think he'd fit well with the Colts. I kind of want him to. I hope he's there in the 5th round because I think the Colts could really use him.
Jeremy, what about you?
I would happily take Bucky Hodges with the Colts' next pick. 94th percentile in Spark. 6'6", 257 pounds. Runs a 4.57. Has an 11-foot broad jump, 39 vertical. I can't believe he's sitting there, to be honest.
Yeah.
Someone said he had drop issues. How bad are those?
He does, for sure. But, I mean, when you're looking at some of the wide receivers that are coming off the board right now, there's a ton of guys that have drop issues.
That's pretty true, yeah.
And especially when you're talking about 4th round. I mean, I'm willing to take a shot on a freak athlete like that, and with hopes that you can fix some drops. If there was anyone that I would be willing to pass up Blair Brown for, it might be him. Other than that, I think Blair Brown is it's a nice fit.
It's a great fit. I'm a big fan. I'm with you, Jeremy. Another guy I'm going to mention, if we wanted to go offensive line, my boy Dorian Johnson from Pitt is still sitting there. I like him.
Is he really?
He is. And I like him as a Mewhort light. He'd be right guard, plug and play, very agile in his feet. I'd be pretty ecstatic with that pick as well. Couple other questions. Would Desmond King fit in the Colts secondary? I think he's one of those maybe nickel guys might still be on the board. Garrett, Jeremy, anybody?
I personally don't view him as a nickel corner or even on the outside as a great fit for this defense. I think Jones and Tankersley Quincy Wilson and Tankersley are much better fits in that respect. Really pure man coverage bounded to your corners, and I don't see King as that kind of guy.
Nope. All right. Anybody think? What about some of these injured guys who are left? We got Jake Butt. We got Eddie Jackson. That'd be kind of almost of a weird pick considering Malik Hooker was our first round pick. But
yeah, we got enough
somebody going like
safeties.
a Jake Butt or I just like saying his name. So Jake Butt.
Jake Butt.
Jake Butt. Honestly, I'd be okay with going after Jake Butt, but there's so many more freaky athletes than a guy with a broken, or ACL, MCL, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's
And George Kittle.
Yeah,
George Kittle from Iowa still sitting there, and he's another freak athlete that I think was super underutilized in college. I would take him over Jake Butt for sure.
Eric Saubert from Drake is a better athlete. So
if they drafted Jake Butt, we'd have Butt Hooker on the team.
Yes.
Hey.
Yes. I love
But missed out on anal zone.
Yes. We missed out on the anal zone. Jeremy, I'm looking over your thing. We talked about slot corners. Talked about that. Interesting observations that you have made today, Jeremy. Age. This comes from old Colts fan, which is interesting. Talk about the age of the drafted players. That the Colts have
Quincy Wilson's still 20 years old, from what I remember. Turns 21 in August, which would make him, I think, the youngest cornerback prospect in the draft. Malik Hooker just turned 21 at the beginning of the month, which I think put him in the 3 youngest or something like that. Basham's a little bit older, but still, they clearly value the fact that they want to keep these guys around for a long time, and they want to get that second contract when they're still 24, 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So interesting that he's valued athleticism and he's valued age. So we gotta find trends, right? We knew a couple of trends from Grigson, outside of being as random as hell. He likes sub 7 second 3-cone scores, and really short wide receivers. But anyways, that's it. That's all the questions that we had for you guys. We've talked about everything we can talk about from day 2 of the NFL draft. I'm not making any promises. I do not think we'll be here tomorrow after the 3rd round. What I think I want to do is wait until the draft is over and we have picked up our free agents, because most draft boards are 150 players. Chris Ballard went on record and said that their draft board's 250 players. And again, he has no attachment to Ryan Grigson's picks. So I feel like we're going to have a lot of roster churn coming up very, very soon. So we will probably be back next week to finish breaking down the rest. But we might come back tomorrow because we love to talk about all this stuff so much. So as for that...
And just quickly, I've had 3 people ask, why is Carl Lawson sliding? From what we're seeing, it's just long-term injury concerns is our best guess, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's got to be it. I mean, he's had quite a few of them. He was very productive as a pass rusher, pretty good against the run, but he had a lot of medical concerns. He was out for an entire year at one point, I believe. So, anyways, again, we might be back tomorrow, we might not, but we'll definitely be back to break down the last day of the NFL draft and the free agent picks in the near future. So you guys have a wonderful night. Thanks for sticking with us. I can't believe there are 50 of you people watching this live at 12:30 Eastern. So you guys have a good night, and we will be back tomorrow on Twitter. Follow us at DraftIndy. Follow us on our personal accounts if you want to as well. Have a good night.